Hey guys, Hunter Elliott here with my buddy Andrew Barnes, Barnes Precision Machine. It was several weeks ago that we had posted on Facebook for people to submit AR-15 related questions. And then once we got a pretty good collection of questions, then I was going to pose them to Andrew and he could address what people had posted. So we've got a pretty good collection. I figure we get started with the first of hopefully a series of questions we'll be posting on Facebook. The first one is coming from a guy named Doc. And his first question is, are you offering any armorers courses in North Carolina?
No.
Okay. Next question is from a guy named Jeremy. An 18-inch barrel LR10 platform for deer hunting. 308 versus 6.5 Creedmoor. Preferences and why?
I've always been a fan of the 308. I think you're going to find a lot more ammo selection, especially for hunting ammo. A 6.5 is a great cartridge, but if you're going to be purchasing a cartridge for deer, I would say go with the 308. If you have a 6.5 and want to hunt deer with it, I'm sure it's an acceptable round, especially for the great trajectory, as long as you can get suitable hunting ammo in that caliber.
Fair enough. This question is from Jennifer. Has Barnes considered any type of training courses?
Yes, we are working right now to get something going locally at a local range, and we'll be announcing that at a later date.
Awesome. So this is from John. He says, my question is, what is the advantage of a 223 Wild chamber over the 5.56 NATO and or 223 Remington? He must recognize that at BPM y'all do use the 223 Wild.
Yeah, traditionally 5.56 chambers, you can shoot 223 Remington ammunition in a 5.56 chamber. You'll get greater enhanced accuracy out of a 223 Wild chamber with 223 Remington or 5.56 NATO ammo. It's also known in a 223 Remington chamber, you cannot shoot 5.56 NATO ammo because of a slight overpressure issue. So that's the difference.
Awesome. Okay, this question comes from JP. I love my Barnes AR. I can buy 223 when it's sometimes cheaper than 5.56. Great machine. So is there really any advantage if you're running the Barnes with a 223 Wild chamber? Is there any advantage over running 223 versus 5.56?
As far as ammunition or chamber itself?
As far as ammunition.
I think that you're going to find a broader range of hunting in 223 Remington. I think you're going to find a broader range of accuracy in 5.56 NATO.
Cool. So here we go. Here's one. What details separate a mass-produced consumer-grade AR versus a premium AR? What detail specs should people look for when shopping for a high-quality rifle? This comes from Tress.
I would say definitely consider the alloys used in the bolt carrier group, for example. Carpenter 158 in the bolt, 8620 in the bolt carrier per mil spec. I would say quality of the barrel, quality of machining of the barrel, the chamber reaming. Also the coatings, plating technology of the rifle. That's where you're going to get your advantage over an otherwise mil spec or manganese phosphate coated weapon, for example. I think you'll have an advantage over a traditional plastic handguard rifle with a free float handguard for accuracy. And as an example, our Barnes Precision Machine free float handguard has a longer barrel nut to support that longer free floated handguard where leverage is induced at the end on a sandbag or with a sling.
Fair enough. Or this question comes from Phil. He says, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I definitely know Andrew Barnes will. I reload my own ammo. Is it possible to lower the powder charge to go subsonic?
If we're talking 5.56 and you attempt to load the subsonic, you'll more than likely have function issue with the weapon. If you're loading subsonic with a 300 blackout, as long as you have a proper gas set up, buffer set up, you shouldn't have any problem with subsonic.
All right. And that's all going to also depend a lot on the bullet weight that you determine.
Correct.
This question comes from Frank. Andrew is an excellent resource. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is about Carpenter 158 versus 9310 for the bolt. Is C158 the best choice? And if so, why?
I think C158, Carpenter 158 is the best choice because number one, it's mil spec. It's what they have stated as the selected alloy for the bolt body. Also, I think it is comparable to 9310. There's not a significant amount of strength difference, but I think that there can be a significant amount of availability difference at certain times of either alloy back to the adhering to the mil spec call out Carpenter 158 is the mil spec material.
Excellent. Okay, this question comes from Gabe. He says, I'm looking into long range shooting. I was thinking about buying a complete 6.5 Grendel upper so I can switch uppers when I want. Or would you recommend a dedicated long range rifle? What are the pros and cons of each?
The cons of buying two rifles is that you pay twice the money. The pros of buying one rifle and two uppers is you don't spend as much money. You have one fire control group, one trigger you're used to, one stock length that you're used to. If both rifles are set up for long range precision, you're probably going to want both stock setups to be the same. If you're going to be having one gun set up for CQB and one gun for long range, well, okay, buy two guns.
So a lot would really depend on the lower.
Correct, and then what you're going to do with it. If both guns are going to be long range precision, lay down in the prone, shooting off a bench with a rifle link buffer and spring set up,
Sure.
Why not just buy a rifle and an alternate upper to put on that rifle? You can only shoot one at a time.
That's right. So this question comes from James. He says, I was wondering about the pros and cons of an unregistered AR-15 lower, 80% lower. Basically, he's asking, really my question is about the cons. Can I take my rifle to a gunsmith if it needed work, maybe that he couldn't perform? Will my 80% lower work with a BPM upper? Are there implications for future suppressor use on an unregistered lower? What about SBR? Can I lend my rifle to a friend to use at the range? So,
Can you ask me these questions one at a time?
I most certainly can.
Okay.
So let's start out with the first one. Let's say he buys an 80% lower and finishes it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Can he take that lower to a gunsmith if he needed some work done that possibly he didn't want to or couldn't do?
Sure. I mean, obviously, I have to ask myself the duh question, what can't he get done, being that he finished out this 80% lower, that a gunsmith is going to be able to do.
Sure.
But if he has to take it to a gunsmith to get work done to it, yes, he can take it to a gunsmith for work.
Now, his other question is, are there any implications for future suppressor use on an unregistered lower?
Well, a suppressor is tied to a document relative to NFA and is not tied to a weapon. So I don't see how that would have any bearing whatsoever.
Okay. What about SBR use?
The weapon that he is producing is a non-NFA item. If he's producing an NFA item, he has to produce and submit paperwork for that NFA item. So an 80% lower used to produce an NFA item does not negate a submission of NFA paperwork.
So
Do
he
you
would
agree?
still have to do a Form 1 manufacturing of an NFA item.
Correct. Whereas if he was just building it as a non-NFA item, 16-inch plus gun, he wouldn't.
If he buys an 80% lower and finishes it out himself and builds a 16-inch carbine out of it, can he loan it to his friend at the range?
I don't see why it would have any other constraints or, limitations of any other firearm.
So I think maybe the only issue would be if you were machining them yourself at home without an 07 FFL and were attempting to sell them. That's maybe where you would run into a little bit of trouble because now you're basically in the firearm business for profit.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that is about all we've got here for the very first submission. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We'll do this on a pretty regular basis as long as we're getting questions in. I mean, we've got a great resource here with Andrew right here, close to the house. So take advantage, guys. So anyway, that's about it.